It's always a pleasure to see you, Director, and I have found you to be as impressively communicative and responsive as any agency head in the federal government. So thank you for your commitment to protecting working people from predatory fees. My first question is about remittances. I represent a district in the Bronx where families have to pay excessive fees in order to transfer their own money to loved ones abroad, and the high fees and long delays of the existing remittance system imposes a hardship on the lowest income Americans, particularly immigrants. And as a nation of immigrants, as you know, the United States is by far the largest source of remittances, $72 billion in 2021 alone. In your view, what can and should be done to create a better, cheaper, and faster remittance system for the most vulnerable among us?
Well, there's so much. One, we need to make sure that the existing providers are not engaged in bait and switch, that they're telling the truth about how much it's cost and they're not hiding things with junk fees. But I think with digitization, we've also got to think more broadly. Lots of you have constituents who send money abroad. I see how in big commercial contexts, there are often agreements between large banks, between central banks. We should be thinking about the plumbing of the financial system so that people can send things cheaply and safely. And I think that requires the attention of us, the Federal Reserve Board, and many others.
I have a question about blockchain and stablecoin in the context of remittances. Blockchain can enable real-time transactions, stablecoin can digitize the dollar. Do you believe that the combination of blockchain and stablecoin, if properly regulated, has the potential to play a role in creating a better, cheaper, and faster remittance system?
Yeah, we've seen that actually some digital apps and other products have been able to actually help people send money to a family member who's in a very remote area. They may not actually live near a bank or a place that has a remittance provider, and are sometimes able to use that in ways that really kind of bridge so much divide. Now, on the underlying technology, obviously it's complicated. We want to make sure that it is well regulated, that there's not fraud, that people have a fair sense of what it is, but I'm totally open to working with all of you as you think through that.
Much has been said about AI. AI is the most revolutionary technology of our time. I have found the discourse about AI to be pessimistic to the point of apocalyptic. And so I'm curious, what do you see not only as the greatest risk, but also the greatest reward of AI when it comes to consumer protection in the field of financial services?
Yeah, so look, in some ways, AI is not totally new. It's really advanced computational methods. There's lots of good ways to prevent fraud. There may be ways in which you could detect some sort of error in your finances, help you automatically dispute something. There's certainly going to be consumer use cases. I think a little bit of where we should be cautious is throwing it out into the world and just kind of seeing what happens. I think we should be thoughtful about how are the different use cases, generative AI and copying of biometric data, lending and how it would work in algorithms. So we should be precise on it, but I think there are opportunities. I'm not apocalyptic, but I want to make sure we're being cautious.
Is CFPB exploring how to harness the power of AI to enhance enforcement?
Yeah, I think we are always looking at more advanced tools on how we analyze our complaint data, other data to detect and deter wrongdoing, just as other law enforcement does.
On the subject of crypto regulation, the agencies that typically come to mind are CFTC and SEC. What is, could, or should be the role of CFPB in the field of crypto regulation?
Yeah, so it's less about the underlying technology and more about the use case. There has not been a huge intersection, but certainly if you have a stable coin that very rapidly scales on one of these payment apps, like another consumer payment, that's certainly a consumer use case there. So that's a real place that we are watching it. But most of the other uses that we see in the financial markets are indeed outside of consumer financial products.
And so what are your existing authorities with respect to stablecoin regulation?
So the relevant ones that come up a lot are the Electronic Fund Transfer Act, which is kind of fraud, movement of digital money, privacy, the Gramm-Leach-Bliley Act privacy provisions, but there's some other ones that get implicated as well.
I see my time has expired. Thank you for your service.
Thank you, sir.